Hello and welcome to another episode of the Designer Diaries podcast. Today we're going to be talking about burnout, because when you run your own business, this is a real risk, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, because it is one thing having a stressful day and saying yes to too many things, and it is a whole other thing to be completely burnt out in your business and falling out of love with what you do. We do not want to get to that point. I think it's because as business owners, we have to wear so many different hats, whether that is the actual design work that you do, the admin, the emails, the accounting, the marketing, all of it in your business. Obviously, even if you have a team, you have to be aware of all of those things that are going on. And so it can just be really easy to get overloaded. So I want to talk a little bit about my experience and some tips that help me in my own website design business. So burnout isn't just feeling stressed every now and then. It is the constant ongoing stress that leads to exhaustion and can lead to more serious physical and mental health problems as well if you are leaving this unchecked. And it does look different for everyone, and it can get really serious, but common symptoms or signs that you might be on the edge of burnout or burning out already is that you feel just constantly tired and drained. Maybe you've got headaches all the time, insomnia, changes in appetite, irritability, and a big one that I think is like a really big teller that you're not just stressed and tired, you're actually burning out, is the feeling of a complete lack of motivation and feeling like really detached from what you're doing. You just feel numb, you feel disengaged or withdrawn from your business. And that's where I've been previously. So back in 2017, I was going through some personal stuff as well. But at that point, I had just taken on so much different work. I was saying yes to all sorts of things with my clients. I didn't have any real good systems in place. I basically overloaded myself. And I just remember sitting at my laptop every day and just being like, what am I doing? I'd completely fallen out of love with my business. I didn't want to do it anymore. I felt completely unmotivated. And luckily I did recognize this and I was able to take a step back because I didn't go down the route of anything more serious, physical health wise or anything like that. So that is very lucky. But for some people, it can result in really serious other problems. So we don't want to get to that point. And if you're nodding your head or ticking off some of those signs and symptoms that I said, this is your sign to take a step back and think, okay, I don't want to let this get any worse. What can I do now to help? And what I'm not going to do is give you the whole like typical self-care spiel, because I think a lot of times self-care can often be misconstrued as permission to either stay in your comfort zone and never leave your comfort zone and step outside of it, or permission to overindulge, or just like shallow little things that don't really get to the root of the problem and help you make a more impactful change to do what you need rather than just what you want. That's kind of what a lot of people think self-care is just like indulging yourself in the things that you want to do, whereas sometimes it's not the things that you want to do, it's what you need to do. But anyway, so I really want to share tips that have actually been impactful for me and actually helped me through this, rather than just little things that, yes, are really nice. Like it's lovely to treat yourself to a bath or a spa day or a nice piece of cake when you're out walking with friends. But what is the stuff that's actually going to help you move past this feeling? So probably the biggest thing that kind of shook me out of this feeling that I had those years ago was reconnecting with my why, or my purpose for why I was actually running my business in the first place. Because it's so easy sometimes to just get caught up in the day-to-day, just like spinning the hamster wheel, working in your business, and not taking time to step outside of that and be like, okay, let me look at my business as a whole, let me work on my business and what actually are my goals. This obviously didn't happen straight away for me. It took me a good few months before I realized, hang on a minute, like the reason why this isn't working out for me isn't anymore is because I've strayed so far from what I actually wanted to be doing or what I actually enjoy. So I really sat down and asked myself, okay, what is it that actually brings me joy? What is the impact that I want to have on other people? What do I want to be known for and why? And I just kept asking myself the question, why do I want to do this? What do I really love? Well, I love website design. don't love all of the other things that I was offering, like marketing, copywriting, even logo design. I just loved the website design side of things. And I was like, well, why do I love that? And it's because I get to combine my creativity, being able to play with tech and create a final finished project for a client rather than ongoing stuff. I realized that I didn't actually want to work with clients in an ongoing way. I like to have a set project that I can say, this is ticked off my to-do list, here it is, and not work with people on retainers and stuff like that. I was starting to get clearer, okay, like what I'm actually passionate about, why I actually want to do it. And then related to that, actually coming up with goals of like, okay, where do I really want to see myself in a few years' time? What do I need to do to get there? And that's the kind of second tip, is not only just saying to yourself, I have a goal where I want to make X amount in 3 years, or I want to work with this many clients. How are you actually going to do it? And can you break it down into really, really, really small chunks? Because I think that was also where I was feeling so overwhelmed, is I had all these things that I wanted to do and projects that I wanted to work on and goals that I thought that I wanted. And that's another thing, like going after a goal that other people are saying is their goal, but it not necessarily aligning with what you want, is also a surefire way to burn yourself out, because you're not going to motivate yourself to be achieving someone else's goal. For example, a financial goal, you might have seen someone on Instagram say, I hit this amount in X amount of years, and make that your goal. But if you don't know why you want that, it's not going to be as motivating. And it might be a completely pointless waste of your stress as well, because you might not need that. So not only setting goals that actually are what you want rather than what you've seen other people setting as their goals, and asking yourself with every single goal that you write down, why do I want this? Why do I actually want this? What is it for? But also breaking it down, like, right, if I want to achieve this, what are the exact steps I'm going to have to do? Can this be broken down? If it's a 3-year goal, I need to break it down into a year. If it's a year goal, how can I break this down into things that I can do each quarter of the year? And then how can I break that down even further into a month, into a week, and then into a day? And that is just a whole system that I was completely missing from my business before that point. I just would write a business plan on a document, like a Google Doc, once a year with my goals on it and stuff, and then never look at it again until the end of the year. And then I'd look at it and be like, I haven't done any of this. And now I feel like crap because I obviously didn't look at it, so I'm not going to have achieved those things. So what me and my friend Olivia did that year, she is a fashion photographer, and we've been like business friends for years. That year we sat down and we said to ourselves, right, what do we actually want to achieve for the coming year? How can we break this down? And we followed all of these prompts that we'd kind of pieced together from things that we'd seen and read online. And we made like this amazing annual plan, which was broken down into quarters, which was broken down into months, which I then created a whole digital system for on Trello. And that was, without exaggerating, probably one of the crowning moments of both of our businesses, to be honest, because we had never felt so clear about exactly what we needed to do on what day in order to get where we wanted to be. And so all that to say, I know that you probably know that setting goals and doing all of this stuff is really important, but don't just set it and then forget it and then look at it a year later and think, oh, I didn't achieve any of that. What you need is a system where you're looking at it every single day, every single month, checking in. And as I said, I have all of this built into Trello, which I also have templates for everything inside my course, The Organized Designers Hub, which I'll leave in the description. That course has got templates for all of my Trello systems, including my content marketing system, my client lead tracker and client portals, but also my task management and goal setting system, which is just like chef's kiss. Could not live without it. I literally have it on my screen right in front of me all day, every day. And I just think it takes the overwhelm out of what you're trying to do, because you've broken it down into such small, manageable pieces each day that your brain's not constantly like, oh my God, I have this huge project that I need to achieve, because you've broken it down. And it's not like you don't know where to start, because you've literally written down every point of the task that you need to do so that it's really clear how to start. And yeah, I just think that was one of the most helpful things that I've ever done. As part of all of that process, another thing that I really had to look at was my boundaries, especially boundaries of my own work schedule and when I should be actually at my laptop and when I should be giving my brain a break, and absolutely my boundaries towards my clients and project timelines and client communication, all sorts of things. Because again, I think when you're first starting out in your business, everything can run away with you and you're just saying yes to lots of things and you're trying to balance your clients all at once. They just end up getting away with murder, frankly, because if you are not setting and upholding boundaries yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. So obviously you're going to have people taking you for a ride, taking advantage of your blurred lines and things, and that is going to cause so much stress. Trust me, I've made probably every client-related mistake in the book and learned a lot of lessons from it. And so when it comes to boundaries around that, it's definitely been a learning process over time. But the main things I would say is communication, being really clear with that up front. How you want to communicate and the times when you're available, things like that. The timing, the timelines that people can expect things from you and when you expect things from them. That is a really big one. What happens if things are running behind schedule? What happens if they deliver things late? What happens if they need to reschedule the project or cancel the project or postpone the project? Make a note of your standard operating procedures for every single point of this, and also have it in your contract and also communicate it clearly with the client. I cannot make this clear enough. If you're thinking that a lot of your exhaustion or near burnout is coming from client related issues, please just dedicate like an hour or 2 hours or something in the next week to sit down with your contract, with your proposals, or however it is that you communicate your boundaries and everything with your clients, and just make sure that you've got all of those things that I mentioned. You've got processes just outlined for your own brain and to communicate with clients how you will handle certain things so that you're all clear, don't have to be making it up on the spot or realize that you should have given the clients a deadline and you didn't, and now you're just waiting months on end to receive stuff from them, because it happens. Similarly with designing your own boundaries, you have to do this, otherwise no one's going to do it for you. The same goes for your schedule as well. So your calendar, your appointments, things that you put into your time in the week and every day. You have to be the one to design this how you want it to be and how you want to prioritize things, because otherwise people are just going to try and take time from you wherever they can, because of course they want to. And if you're not setting boundaries and hard lines about things, then how would they know that what your preference is? So one thing I started doing was every week in my Google Calendar, I block out my kind of personal priorities first, and then I put all of my work stuff in around that. So that looks like exercise classes, they go in my calendar first. Everything else can work around that because I want to prioritize my health. Or making time to see family, that goes in first. And I also look at my energy levels week to week, and also at points in my menstrual cycle, or taking into account personal events and things that I have coming up, and planning my time and my time for client work, client calls, that type of thing accordingly. So one thing that I do is I don't do client calls on Mondays and Fridays. I only have my call calendar open Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays. And if you are tracking your cycle and you know that the week before your period starts, you are really anxious and stressed and everything like that, maybe it's not a good idea to book too many appointments and calls or those sorts of things in during that week. Prioritize yourself with this, because again, no one else is going to do it for you. On the Mondays and Fridays that I mentioned where I'm not doing client calls, I actually dedicate certain times of those days to working on my business. So I'm not just constantly doing client work every single day. For example, Fridays are my content days. So that is typically where I will spend more time working on my marketing and things like that. Monday mornings are for admin, getting through my emails and like doing those little boring tasks before I start on any client work. And I actually have that blocked into my calendar, literally on my digital Google Calendar, so that I know not to book anything in at those times because I want to prioritize those for my business and working towards my goals. And while you don't necessarily have to put these into your calendar, this is just something that really helps me as well, and that is making time for what I like to call perspective shifting activities. And this is basically anything that is getting you out of work mode, because sometimes we're just so in it, especially if we work from home as well, or you have like a bit blurred lines around when you start and finish work. It's very easy to just have your whole brain containing just work stuff and just thinking about that all of the time. And then if something does go wrong or if something is stressful, that is like all consuming. So you want to be able to have time to step out of that work brain and get some perspective, which is why I call them perspective shifting activities, because I genuinely think that's the main reason why it's so helpful. Whether that is trying a new creative hobby that is just like with your hands without being on a screen, getting outside, being in nature, getting in the sea, seeing other people who are not work or business related. All of these things make the stress and the all-consumingness of your exhaustion in your work seem just a little bit smaller, because that is just seen then as a part of your life rather than your whole life. So you can block that into your calendar if that's the easiest way you find to be able to do things and remember to do things, or just try and remember each week to do something or a few things if you can, to shift your perspective and not make it all about work. Again, that was part of my issue when I was reaching the burnout stage. I just didn't really have any of those things or do any of those things that much. I think it's also really important if you are a genuinely creative person, and that's the whole reason why you started your design business and you want to do this. Very quickly, creatives can find that when they start monetizing their creativity, i.e. turning your design skills and love of design and creativity into a business, it's very easy to drain yourself and suck all of the creativity out of yourself because you've now turned it into a business, and you can lose some passion there, which is why I think it is really good to try and do some other creative things that ideally are not on a screen, like painting, I don't know, pottery, jewelry making, that kind of a thing that allows you to get that creativity back again and refuel you for when you are sat down at work, and again gives you some perspective there. Obviously, building a support network is really important as well for just everything in business. Being able to have people who understand what it's like to be a business owner, and they don't necessarily have to be in the same industry as you and do what you do, but having someone that you can talk to about things, or a group of people that you can talk to about things, has been so good. Obviously I mentioned Olivia, who is my business bestie, and that was so helpful that we did that kind of planning, goal setting session together, and we do it now every year together as well. But I can always talk to her about business because we relate on that level. But also joining a business group or having a mentor or a coach are things that can really help take the stress and the load off you, because right now it's just in your brain trying to figure everything out. And if you have someone to bounce ideas off and just like let it out to, that can be really helpful. And finally, while I have actually never managed to get my head around the idea of journaling, I've tried doing the morning pages and all of that kind of stuff, and I've just never really been able to stick to it. Something that I do instead, or kind of, it is similar to journaling I guess, is every day on my Trello task management system I have a recurring kind of card or task that pops up for me to fill out some prompts. And these are just prompts like, what do you want to achieve today? What are the top 3 things that you need to get done? Do you have any negative thoughts? Can you reframe them? But one that I always just come back to again and again, and that I think everyone should do, is just listing out 3 things that you're grateful for at the beginning of the morning. And it sounds so lame and boring, and everyone always says it, but if you can actually remember to do this, it genuinely does set your day up in a more positive way, and I do think that is really helpful. But obviously, if you are experiencing some of those burnout signs, then the last thing that you might want to do is write down things that you're happy about, because you can just genuinely feel really miserable about your business and just not want to think about it. So I completely get that. And if that is you, I am sending you a lot of love, and I really hope that some of these tips can help, and that you can find just a little bit of time this week to sit down with yourself and remind yourself what your purpose is, what your goals really are, and that you can break this down into really small things and reconnect with your business. Even if you feel like you're falling out of love with it right now, you absolutely can get back to a place of feeling really passionate about it again. You just have to take some steps to get back there, which can be really hard. I get it. So if you do want to have a chat about any of this with me, please feel free to send me a DM. I'm on Instagram at by.rosanna, or leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. I'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much for listening to this episode. I will see you again next week with another one.